That's it. I don't want to hear nothing else. I am fully convinced after Terence Crawford defeated Israel Madrimov, we all got to watch the fight, see it unfold. The best fight for Crawford is Jaron Boots Ennis and not Canelo Alvarez. In this video, that's what we're going to break down. Terence Crawford versus Jaron Boots Ennis. But first, Bomac, he did an interview with Andre Ward, and we got to listen to what he had to say regarding Jaron Boots Ennis. Then I could give you more of my thoughts regarding the fight. So let me get set up. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. I am the best in the business, and it's not even close. Roll the clip.
Like that, because you might run into that style one day and then be like, okay, I know how to beat this
You
guy.
got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
How you feel about Jaron and his
He all right. He's all right, kid. Him and Bozy,
Yeah.
they all right people. You know, can he fight? Yeah, he can fight. Is he gonna be at the pinnacle at one day? I'm sure he will.
Is he ready for Terence right now?
No, he's not ready for Terence.
You don't think so?
No, hell
Tell me,
no.
give me one good reason why.
He make too many mistakes, man. He get hit with too many stuff. With stuff he shouldn't get hit with. You know what I'm saying? I understand he taking chances, but you got to be smart in there, young fella. Now, if you get cracked with one of them power on it, you gonna feel it. You ain't gonna walk through that. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it.
And so you had a situation several months ago, man, where you ended up in the UK in jail.
So basically, Team Crawford, before the fight, they said that Jaron Boots Ennis, he's making too many mistakes and he ain't going to be able to walk through Crawford's shots and things like that. Listen, didn't want to have to do this, but y'all made me. Now, I looked at the David Avocado fight. It was a great barometer because Crawford had already faced David Avanesian. So when Cody Crowley was out, he had an eye issue, medical excuse, fight canceled. They needed somebody. They picked Avanesian. So it was a barometer so we could kind of compare what Bud did versus what Boots was going to do. Now, I don't really know anyone that picked David Avocado to beat Boots or Crawford for that matter. And those outcomes didn't, surprise that both Bud and Boots won. Now, I was looking at the fight and I did my post-fight commentary and I was like, yeah, I expected Boots to win. I expected Boots to knock Avanesian out, like where he was out, right? And there was some shots where he got hit. I did see in the interview where Jaron Ennis, he gave his stance. He said he got in there with David Avanesian and he knew he couldn't do anything, like maybe he felt the power or whatever, and he knew he had nothing for him. So he said he was willing to take more chances. So to me, this does seem like a bit of a cop-out because this is not a fight prediction. I don't make fight predictions unless we got an actual fight. That since I started, that's always been my style. So Terence Crawford versus Jaron Boots Ennis, all I know is that it is a great fight. Now, the problem I have with what Bomac said is the Bud Buddies, the Terence Crawford man fans, are starting to sound very, very similar to the Cinnabons, the Canelo Alvarez fans. And I'm going to explain why in this video. The reason why I'm saying that is because when you get radical fan bases, they'll do anything in their power to justify certain big fights if it doesn't look like the fight is headed in that direction or that the fighter wants to fight. And if the fighter's coming up with roadblocks to not make the fight, then that rabid fan base will savagely defend that and say, yeah, this guy doesn't deserve it, right? And this is what is one of the big problems in boxing, and I'm going to explain. So, for example, because I know you guys all like examples, let's say Canelo man fans, they'll say, oh, David Benavidez doesn't deserve a fight with Canelo Alvarez, right? They'll talk about he doesn't sell, he hasn't beat anybody, yada, 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 right? Or in the past, when Canelo could have fought Jermell or Jamal Charlo at 154, because they were all in that division at the same time, or 160, that's when people wanted to see Canelo face the Charlo brothers because they were all in the same division. Things changed. Canelo started bulking up, left the 154 and Canelo weight to 155. Then he was at 160 for a period of time, never became undisputed, left there, started fighting at 164.5 versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He fought at 68, became undisputed, and even at 175. So at the time where Canelo chose one of the Charlos, it was poor timing because Jermell Charlo is a 154-pound guy. He was undisputed, and you're messing up the natural order of things. Like, imagine, I watch a lot, like with the Animal Planet, right? If you go to Africa and you start, let's say, hunting all the animals, then the lions, what are they going to even eat? Everything is going to be scarce. Everything's going to be sparse if you're just killing all the livestock and you're killing all their natural prey. You're going to mess up that environment. And then it could turn into a situation where lions are like attacking other lions for survival, things like that. Like, so you're messing the whole ecosystem up is the point I'm making. That's why I had a problem, other than weight class jumping, with Canelo versus Jermell Charlo, because Jermell was going to fight Tim Tszyu. That would have been a great fight, and they were both 54-pounders. So Canelo Alvarez consistently does whatever he wants, and, you know, he's kind of like a picker. He wants to pick and choose and do stuff, and it messes up the ecosystem of boxing. So the point I'm making with Canelo is he waited. There was a point where they're all in the same weight class, and the fight would have made sense for him to fight the Charlos. But he waited till he had outgrown one of the Charlos, the one he fought, Jermell Charlo. Then he wanted to fight him, and he made him move up 14 pounds, and it was a one-sided fight for said reason because of weight, right? So the point I'm making is when you look at, like, let's say a Canelo and his fan base, the fan base will come up with all these excuses when it made sense for Canelo to fight the Charlos at 54, at 155 Canelo weight, or at 160, because they were in the same weight class concurrently. During that time, no surprise, BOXINGEGO was here, and I was making videos, had a channel. The Canelo fans were saying, oh, the Charlos, they haven't beat anybody, they're bums, and they don't deserve the Canelo fight, et cetera, et cetera. The moment Canelo selected the smaller Charlo, when it didn't make sense, which I just went over, because he had outgrown 54 pounds and he's all the way at 68 and he even had fights at 175, that's when Canelo chooses to fight Jermell Charlo. So it really didn't make sense, right? Really didn't make sense. Now all of a sudden, the Canelo man fans are trying to justify the fight because it's finally happening. So they would say stuff in my comment section like, oh, I thought you wanted to see Canelo versus Jermell Charlo. But everything requires context. I did want to see Canelo versus either Charlo when they were at 54, not several years later when Canelo had grown out of the division and he's fighting at 75 and 68 and talking about fighting at cruiserweight and Jermell's still at 54. You see? Now we're getting the same thing with the Terence Crawford fans, right? The Bud Buddies, they have every excuse in the world because Crawford and his team are not trying to address this Boots Ennis situation and they feel they have bigger fish to fry or whatever. So because they're not looking in the direction, you're noticing in the comment section, the Bud Buddies, they're saying that Crawford shouldn't fight Boots because Crawford and his team are saying that Boots isn't ready and Boots doesn't deserve it, yada, yada, yada. But here's the thing. Crawford legit a few days ago just main evented and headlined a card versus an unknown guy in America, Israel Madrimov, who had 11 fights. 11 fights. 10 of those were wins, 1 was a draw. And he had some suspect performances in recent years, like the first Michelle Soro fight that was a draw. So I find it ironic that the Bud Buddies and Team Crawford, they try to marginalize and minimalize Boots like, oh, what has he done? Oh, he's not ready. Oh, he doesn't have the experience. Oh, he can't take Crawford's shots. But none of these questions for Madrimov, who only has 11 fights, right? And the funny thing is, Madrimov pushed you to the limit, and most people believe that it was a close fight, no matter who you had winning, right? So with 11 fights, he was able to make it a competitive fight. He was never dropped. He was never knocked down. So many people believed that Madrimov was going to get knocked smoothed out by Crawford. So it was therefore underwhelming because none of that happened. So I'm not a big fan of teams saying we don't need to see it because I'm telling you we don't need to see it and Jaron Ennis isn't ready. I would like Boots and Crawford to fight and show me that he's not ready. And this is what waters down the sport of boxing, because if you are a legit boxing fan that has been watching boxing for 5, 10 plus years, you've gotten a prediction wrong where you thought Pitbull Cruz, for example, was going to beat El Rayo and El Rayo won. Or you thought Jared Big Baby Anderson was going to beat Martin Bacoli because you didn't know who he was, and then Bacoli won emphatically by stoppage, right? So we've all gotten predictions wrong. So that's not going to cut it just telling me that Jaron Boots Ennis isn't ready for Terence Crawford, because these same cop-outs and roadblocks for a fight that actually makes sense, none of these were given to Madrimov, and he has 10 fights, 11 fights, right? So that's my question to you. How come the Bud Buddies, when it comes to Boots, they're saying he's not ready? He's not ready at age whatever he is. He's probably like 26, 27. Madrimov was 29 with 11 fights. Yeah, so I'm looking right now. Jaron Boots Ennis is currently 27 years old with 32 fights and 29 knockouts, right? And you're saying he's not ready. You're just saying he's not ready at age 27 with, again, 30 plus fights, 32 fights, 29 wins. At some point, you're going to have to get off, you're going to have to jump in the mix and then prove yourself and show if you're ready or not, right? Crawford has 41 fights, but here's Madrimov. Boom. So Madrimov is literally 2 years older than Boots, and this one loss is Crawford, of course, so this wasn't there when he entered the ring, but he was 10-0-1. And Crawford didn't knock him out, didn't abuse him. It was nice. It was nice work on both sides. They both respected each other, and maybe even to a fault. They were both looking to counter each other and capitalize off the other's mistakes. So it was kind of nullifying and neutralizing the action, because earlier in the fight, both guys were doing solid work and respected the other person's game so much that it was like jittery and like kind of tentative to let off combinations. So it was really kind of a lackluster fight. And it's just funny that there's all these reasons and rationales. Listen, my thing is this. If Crawford fought Boots and knocked him smooth out, hey, that's boxing. He's calling for the fight. He wants to fight. That's a potential, right? Just like Jared Anderson. He's only 24 and he fought Martin Bacoli, who's huge and had more high-level experience sparring with Dubois and sparring with Anthony Joshua, who are about to fight each other, on top of a size advantage. You don't know until you put the person in there. So I just find it funny that the Bud Buddies, they keep saying that Boots isn't ready and he hasn't fought anyone. Like, you have to step up at some point. It reminds me of when I first turned 18 and I was trying to apply for a credit card and I kept getting rejected, not because I had poor credit history, because I had no credit history. And then there was like, oh, you're going to get a letter in the mail in 7 to 10 days. So it'll explain why you were rejected for this Macy's card, right? And the letter would always come and it would say insufficient credit history. So when they're determining if you are eligible for their credit card or if they want to give you a credit card, they determine your credit worthiness, right? And they want to assess the risk. Basically, if we loan you this money, because that's pretty much what a credit card is, it's a loan. If we give you a $5,000 balance and you start running stuff up, are we going to get our money back? Are you going to pay it back down and pay the interest and blah, 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 maintain the credit card, right? So I didn't have any credit history. Therefore, they couldn't judge or assess the risk because I had just turned 18 and I had nothing in my name. I didn't even have like a card note. Because I had a car. The car situation wasn't from the dealer. It was a car that was paid off, was my first car. You see what I'm saying? So the point I'm making is I was questioning at the time, how do I establish credit history if everyone turns me down for lack of credit history? And that's the same thing with Boots. People are complaining, saying Boots won't fight no one. He hasn't fought no one, but he's trying to fight a big someone like Terence Crawford. He's either going to be successful or he's not going to be successful, but then the opportunity is not being given. And another thing that is wrong with boxing, we unpacked, that I've noticed in boxing a lot, is when there's a PBC fighter that non-PBC fighters want to fight, the shapeshifters, the usual suspects, they'll make this big hoopla and say like Tank needs to fight Shakur Stevenson, knowing Shakur is with Top Rank, not now, but I'm talking about when he was with Top Rank up until recently and he became a free agent. So they try to pitch these matches, but then there's in-house fights where you don't really have to really go outside of the platform, and then all of a sudden people don't pitch those, they don't pitch those matches, right? Like when Andrade was with DAZN, Eddie Hearn kept screaming that he wanted to have Andrade fight Jamal Charlo, a PBC fighter. But then there were guys like Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Smith, and they were all on DAZN, and Triple G, they're all DAZN fighters. Why didn't they fight Demetrius Andrade instead of Lucas Keeler and stuff like that? So you see the double standards, and that's the same exact thing with Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is working with Turki Al-Sheikh. His last fight was working with Eddie Hearn on DAZN. Turki Al-Sheikh called Jaron Boots Ennis after his David Avocado fight and said he wanted to do business with him. And he just signed to Eddie Hearn and he's on DAZN. Eddie Hearn just said he wants to make Crawford versus Boots. I think it's a great fight. And here's the thing. We know for a fact that Boots just did 15,000 his very first outing as a main event for real, right? In Philly. So he had a good turnout. You mean to tell me Americans wouldn't rather two top American switch hitters, one a little bit older, one a little bit younger, more experience versus youth and, you know, possibly more power? That's like a Ken and Ryu style fight. You just fought this dude with 11 fights when you entered the ring with him. He had 11 fights to his name, spaces of inactivity. he's not much older than Jaron Ennis, and then your team is saying, oh no, Boots ain't ready. And then Crawford's saying he'll give Madrimov a rematch. I don't even know if people want to see the rematch. You know, maybe. You guys let me know in the comment section. Do you want to see the Terence Crawford versus Madrimov rematch? Now, as far as the Canelo Alvarez fight, this is who Bud says he really truly wants to fight. I've been saying it. I don't want to see that fight, especially after Madrimov with his 11 fights just gave Bud a tough fight, swole his eye and under his eye and stuff like that, was touching Bud, and Bud kept saying, oh, he's strong. Oh yeah, I felt the power. He's strong. He's a good fighter. He's strong. He's big. He's strong. If you're saying that about unaccomplished, inexperienced, and I'm not talking about 300 amateurs, because Lomachenko has 1,000 amateurs, but he has several losses as a pro. I'm talking about pro level experience. You could be a great amateur and not be a great pro. So don't tell me about amateur experience like as if it's the end all be all. There's guys that don't have the amateur experience and they go on to be like world beaters in boxing. So the point I'm making is you kept bragging about how strong Madrimov is. That's at 54. Imagine Crawford moving up 2 more weight classes to fight Canelo, because Canelo already said that he's not fighting at a catchweight with Crawford. He said he really don't even want to fight Crawford. He's not fighting at a catchweight, and he said he can't make 160. So Bud would have to fight Canelo at 168 or better, and your power looked like Madrimov could handle it. He was never badly rocked. I think they hurt each other, but not to the point of either guy was like on his way out on his last leg, like one more punch and this guy is going to get knocked out. It wasn't nothing like that. So if your power is somewhat muted and you look a lot more vulnerable and human at 54, why would anyone want to see you fight the Canelo? A lot of boxing fans are sounding stupid to me. They keep pressing because these are 2 names, Canelo and Crawford. So they're just trying to make it as if it's a good fight. I mean, I don't want to see Crawford versus Canelo any more than I want to see Vasyl Lomachenko versus Sebastian Fundora or a 54-pounder. Weight classes exist for a reason. I mean, what's the point? And I think the performance, although Crawford did good and had some sharp combinations, he showed he was a dog. I really believe that Crawford created more distance and made the Canelo fight look more and more like a pipe dream with that style performance at 54. And it brought us closer to a Boots Ennis fight making a whole lot more sense. That's what I truly believe. He didn't bridge the gap and, you know, do this whole big statement with Madrimov that now fans are craving the Canelo fight. Look through any comment section, ask any analyst if they want to see Bud Crawford after how he just looked. And even if you think he won, just how the fight looked, do you want to see him now move up 14 more pounds, which we just watched Jermell Charlo do, and have 0 success with Canelo Alvarez? And here's the thing, is Jermell Charlo was almost in a bit of survival mode. Crawford, I believe, would go out on his shield because that's the type of fighter he is. But I also think that Jermell has a better chin than Crawford. So I really, the Canelo fight, it just seems so pointless. And I understand Crawford pushing for it, just as, I mean, he feels he can win, and Canelo represents the biggest money fight for him because he handled Errol Spence very well. That fight fell apart in terms of the rematch, so the desire is not there. So he's just trying to go with what he believes is the next biggest and feasible big bag fight. But this big bag fight with Canelo, it doesn't seem realistic, especially after the Madrimov. I already said that before, and y'all know that on my channel. I said that before the Madrimov fight happened, but I stand even more. I feel vindicated with how the fight looked. You let me know if you still want to see the Canelo versus Crawford fight. And I think there might be some people out there who are contrarian and they just want to see it because they're not the ones lacing it up. They're not the ones that could get knocked out. So they would want to just see it purely on some curiosity stuff. And I feel like more often than not, if the fight looks a certain way on paper, what you see is what you get. Meaning, most people thought it was a bad idea for Kell Brook to move up and fight Triple G at middleweight. Triple G was on like a 21 knockout streak. He was fighting bigger people than Kell Brook, and he was knocking them all out. So Kell Brook, he's like, nah, I'll fight him. So basically, realistically, I'm gonna fight with my fight with Triple G and give him a chocolate right hand brownie, and everybody said it was dumb. And then he got his orbital broken, and then his next fight he got his other orbital shattered by Errol Spence. And after those two fights, Kell Brook never looked the same, in my opinion. Even when Crawford got him, he didn't look the same, right? He withered with a jab and went away. But he was game in the Errol Spence fight and the Triple G fight. You see what I'm saying? So Amir Khan moving up to fight Canelo at 155. Sound like a boneheaded idea? And then Amir Khan got knocked out with his eyes open. You see what I'm saying? Like when do these like freak show fights play out in favor of the person that is the massive underdog, right? Mayweather McGregor, same thing. When the fight was announced, like I understand that fight because I knew it was going to make a lot of money, so I understood it. But what I'm saying is I never gave Conor McGregor a shot to outbox Floyd Mayweather. And he got knocked out. He gassed out, didn't know what he was doing, over the course as the fight went on. And he got knocked out. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just asking, when does the fight actually benefit the dare to be great guy? Because I can think of far more examples in boxing where the dare to be great guy who did some thing that looked like, I don't advise this move. This is not a good move. This is crazy. Most of the time, it actually plays out like that. And again, for every example you can think of, I could think of more examples where it's an Amir Khan getting knocked out by Canelo, Kell Brook getting knocked out by Triple G, and people, Jermell Charlo losing every round to Canelo. And that's what it is. So Jaron Boots Ennis, I truly believe, is the next best big bag anticipation fight since the Canelo fight. Really is not realistic to me. It hasn't been realistic. And again, after the Madrimov fight, I feel even more so it's not realistic. So if Crawford's not going to retire, I think he should fight Boots Ennis, right? Madrimov, again, it was a solid fight. Some people are saying Madrimov won. I mean, I don't know how much money is in that fight. Like, what do you even do? Like, are you going to do the same type of scale? You're going to put that in LA? You've seen Crawford couldn't sell tickets like that. And they were giving away tickets with the Eminem show. So I don't really understand. I don't understand the vision. And then meanwhile, you got a Boots fight that's right there. You guys are with the same platform on DAZN. And then Canelo's not even on DAZN right now. Not meaning you can't buy his fight because he's fighting DAZN people, but he has a partnership with PBC, and this is who Crawford is calling out. But then Turkey wants to work with Jaron Ennis. Turkey's working with Terence Crawford, and they're telling us we can't have the fight. So Crawford is still trying to push, if the money's right, I'll fight Canelo. But Canelo said he doesn't want to fight you because he gets no benefit from it. So I think this whole thing looks very foolish, and I'm off it. Pushing for Crawford and Canelo, it just seems like a curiosity thing. How many people really believe that Terence Crawford beats Canelo at 168? Who? And here's the other thing that I think is a major factor with that, and a major dilemma and problem. If you're not knocking out Madrimov, if you can't knock down Madrimov, a guy with 11 fights when you fought him, who wasn't experienced, Canelo got a granite chin. He has a strong chin. Plus, you'd be out of your depth in terms of the weight. In one fell swoop, just moving up in weight, you would probably be a bit slower because you would have to pack on 14 pounds, or you would just come in insanely light, which then who knows what your durability would be. You see how stupid this is? So if you fight Canelo at 168 and you come in at 158, then he's going to have a 20, 30 pound advantage on you come fight night. So that's stupid because you'll be probably not durable enough at that point. You'll be too light. He could move you too easily, right? Or you bulk up, and then who knows what is lost in the bulk up process. How do you maintain the same exact speed? How do you carry your power up when you start at lightweight? You see, this really doesn't make sense. This is what I was telling you for. But the Jaron Boots Ennis fight is right there. He said he would fight you at 54 or 47, or you could do a catch weight. That makes sense. But you got people who are pushing for Crawford versus Canelo. What's the benefit? And here's the last thing I'll leave you guys with. If Crawford were to fight against Canelo, again, this is just my assessment. If you did not knock down or knock out Madrimov, I really don't believe you're going to move up all that weight and knock out a Canelo fight. A fighter like Canelo, who's never been, I don't think he's ever been knocked down. You guys let me know. I understand Jose Miguel Cotto when he was like 18, 19, he fell into the ropes. I know my boxing. It's okay. I'm the best in the business. I know my boxing, but I don't think he's ever been knocked down where his like butt is on the canvas. Like so just bow and he on the ground like that. That's what I'm talking about. So he's not been knocked out. He's not even been knocked down. I really don't see Crawford putting together this magical combination with that weight disparity and knocking him out. So what does that mean? It means it would probably be an evasive fight where Crawford has to pot shot and run for survival. And then Canelo, who hasn't always successfully been able to cut off the ring against like crafty finesse boxers, he would just be chasing. So I don't see it being a good fight. I don't see it being a great barn burner. Because hear me out. If you watch the Madrimov fight, Crawford did not throw the standard amount of combinations that he's thrown anywhere from 35 to 47. I think that's because he moved up in weight and he felt the power was a little bit different. Madrimov was real bouncy and, he wanted to be more cautious, especially earlier in the fight. When he felt that he could be down on the scorecards, he kind of stepped it up, right? But Canelo's not the one you want to have a shootout with, especially if you're at a weight deficit. So it really serves no purpose. In my opinion, Crawford would have to run throughout the fight and try to be evasive. And it would just be a cat and mouse chasing game with a guy who's undersized. It just sounds stupid. Fight boots. You see what I'm saying? So same thing with Canelo versus Crawford. I don't see the vision. I don't see the reason for the fight. I don't see the setup. And that's just my honest opinion. This is not hate. Every time I say an opinion, that doesn't coincide with some of you guys you say is hate, I don't really care. It's not going to stop my opinion from happening. You ain't going to do nothing. So we just be at odds and agree to disagree or whatever they say, because I'm not changing, because this fight makes no sense. Canelo has fought 2 times, I believe, at 175 pounds. Why do I want to see a guy? I haven't even seen Crawford fight 1 time at 154 pounds, right? We will this weekend in the Israel Madrimov fight, and we'll see how Crawford looks at a 54. But see, even me doing this is almost a waste of my time, because I'm young dictionary, make words make sense. So I don't like to do the fantasy fight stuff, but this is a recurring issue. People want me to talk about it, so I'm giving you my fair thoughts and, you know, sharing my ego final thoughts on the matter, because it's something that continues to get talked about. It's just, I could go on, and for so many reasons, it just doesn't move me. Now, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not a fake person. I'm a man before any of this boxing stuff. So if you see me in public, I'm the same person that I am on camera. You know, I'm a man. You know, I don't really even care about boxing more than I care about my manhood, you know? And I'll say the same thing. You know, fans, oh, why don't you? You're not going to convince me that I need to see. We unpack, coming to you live, Boxing Ego Unpack, yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack, coming